But is this really the right reading? I refer here to a church authority, at least theological authority. My favorite Catholic theologist, Gilbert Keith Chesterton, who, in his wonderful short text on Job, you can find it on the web, of course, provides exactly the opposite reading. That God's answer is a kind of an admission of God's own perplexion. It's, you think you are in deep shit, but look, I've created one big mess. Everything is a mess. It's a kind of as Chesterton puts it in very precise terms, it's a kind of a moment of blasphemy of God himself. God himself, as Chesterton puts it, becomes for a moment a blaspheming atheist, as it were, admitting his own perplexion at the mess he created. And also, Chesterton already then insists on the crucial move to be made to read the death of Christ against the background of the book of Job. That is to say, in what sense? What really dies on the cross? I follow here Hegel, who emphasized this, that what died on the cross is not the earthly representative of God. It's not God is up there, he sent his son, okay, it didn't work, son returns back to his dad and maybe 1,000 years later or whatever again. No, that the God of beyond himself died there. Which God? I think, put it in very simple terms, one should evoke here that standard, one of the most disgusting metaphors for me, metaphor for religious experience, you know, the metaphor of the stain, where you say, if something appears to us as evil, it's like when you look at a painting from too close and you see just a stain. But when you withdraw to a proper distance, you see how what you perceive, rather misperceive as a stain, just contributes to the global harmony. This is the usual position of wisdom. Don't get engaged. This is the peace of the proper distance. Of course, there are some problems. There always were, if you will. But you also say Holocaust is a stain just for a finite perspective, but the true wise guy sees how Holocaust or Gulag really contribute to global beauty and so on the universe. I think that I read the death of Christ out of as an identification with human suffering, as precisely renouncing this position. In this way, it repeats the book of Job. It's exactly in the same way as Job insists, there is no deeper meaning to my suffering. In the same way, Christ concedes, no, we cannot make this move backwards. There is no God which is up there who secretly pulls the strings and somehow guarantees that our catastrophes serve some higher goal. All that happens is here, so I can only, as it were, throw myself into my own creation, and I trust you, the collective of believers. That this is Holy Spirit for me. It's something very precise. This is how we are to read, you know, those statements in the Bible that it's incredible how many even Christians today are embarrassed by them and try to generate some kind of easy way out. You know, all those lines of, if you don't hate your mother, your father, you are not my follower, I bring sword, I don't bring peace and love, and so on and so on. It's incredible, again and again, when I find myself debating with people about this, I'm shocked how even the big theological figures avoid or downplay this point. For example, recently a couple of months ago, I had a public debate in London at ICA with Joan, the guy with whom I co-wrote that book, The Monstrosity of Christ, and I asked him this question, and he gave me the typical Aristotle Aquinas answer of downplaying. First he said that I was shocked at what he said. I told him, if you were to be Middle Ages, I would put you on stage and burn you immediately. He started to talk like some kind kind of a shitty deconstructionist historicist. He said, you know, we should take this statement by Christ in its context. He was talking to this kind of people. We should see what society and so on. And basically then his ultimate argument was that we should take this metaphorically. It doesn't mean really hate your parents, but don't become too attached to them. Like you should love me, God, more than them. And I told him, this is for me a blasphemy. Is he aware that he is turning God into some kind of jealous narcissist who said, okay, love each other, but you should love me a little bit more and everything is okay, and so on and so on. Obviously, it's not that that's happening. So when I pressed him on the point, he said ultimately that this question shocked him, he wasn't prepared, he would need more time. And I couldn't resist the obvious answer. You as a Christian, you had 2,000 years to prepare. I mean, you know that I didn't find something new. They were simply afraid of the basic message. Of course, the message is not you should really hate your father, mother, kill them. No, but the message is, that's how I read it, you should hate them in their capacity of members of a social hierarchic body. You should, of course, love them, but love them as neighbors, abstractly, not as figures of authority and so on and so on. It all comes to Holy Spirit. I think the whole point of Holy Spirit is that it's the first big historical realization of this idea of an egalitarian community which cancels social hierarchy. And that's definitely, I claim, worth fighting for, and it's still subversive today. And of course, this brings us to Hegel. Hegel was fully aware of it. Okay, I don't want to lose too much time here, so let me just add another improvisation. Hegel. Why Hegel? Now, from now on, the talk becomes much more boring. I warn you. I nonetheless want to do something about Hegel, because instinctively, I had a shocking experience half a year ago. I was 60. I hate it, so I no longer can make excuses. You know, sometime in the future I will do the big work. Now I decided to do only what I really want to do. I'm tired, frankly, of these political interventions up and down. I'm now writing another big book on Hegel and philosophy, and that's what I want to do. So, why Hegel? If you know anything, I hope you do, that's the reason you are here, about Hegel, mostly it is this kind of duality. On the one hand, yeah, many interesting analyses in phenomenology, in aesthetics, which are still can say something to us, many concrete historical insights, but basically a boring idealist megalomania. Hegel, absolute knowing, that crazy guy who thought he can read the mind of God, and effectively Hegel literally claims that his logic is the presentation of the mind of God prior to the creation of the world. So you say, my God, what can this tell to us? So as a first move, I propose to you to simply forget all these textbook qualifications of Hegel. You know, the absolute idealist who thought that out of the pure movement of concept he can deduce the structure of the entire reality, that he penetrated everything, no resisting thickness of reality, everything can be swallowed by the idea, which is of course Hegel's own idea, kind of ridiculous idealist image. My thesis is that this image of Hegel is precisely what in psychoanalysis we call Deckerinnerung, the screen memory, no? Deckerinnerung, what's that? Screen memory. Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, you know, a fantasy we construct to obfuscate, to render invisible some much more traumatic core. Let's take Hegelian triad. Let me just first give you some very simple examples still from daily life, just to give you an elementary idea of how Hegelian analysis were to work. The idea came to me when I got this as a water to drink. Ethos water, you buy it in Starbucks, I think, helping children get clean water. If people say we no longer live in an ideological society, here you have ideology at its purest. Why? I claim that one of the ways to analyze where we are, our predicament today, at least in ideology, is, I claim, it's a very simple approach. It's to distinguish different modes of publicity. How a typical, of course, it's an ideal typical way. It's not always empirically true. What's the predominant, hegemonic, if you want, mode of publicity?